This tutorial is going to teach you how to color cylinders, specifically with using Copic markers. When coloring a cylinder, you should keep your marker strokes along the long side of the cylinder, so in this case, going up and down. This is because when light is reflected off of a cylindrical object, the highlight gets distorted long ways. So the final image will look much more realistic if you shade this way. So first we're just going to start with the light coming straight onto the cylinder. So you're going to start with your lightest color marker. I'm using a C1, and I'm going to go ahead and draw myself a guide to start. So just off center, I'm going to draw a line straight up and then another straight line up, leaving a little bit of that white space on the outer edges. This is because when light hits a round object, some of that light kind of does wrap from behind it. So then going slightly off center to the other side, I'm going to do the same thing. You can also just kind of draw lines straight up like this all the way to the edge. So either draw yourself a guide and fill it in, or go straight across like that. At this point, you can take the C1, the same color that you've been using, whatever your lightest color is, and you can go ahead and just fill in the top of it. You can either use long strokes, you can use little circles, whatever is most comfortable to you, but go ahead and just fill in the top with a pretty even coat. Now going to my next color. This should be about 2 numbers up from whatever number you used before, so your shading color. In this case, I'm going to use a C3. Now taking those sections that you're already colored in, just going to go straight there in the middle, going the same direction, which would be the long side of the cylinder, and just going straight up, and doing the same on the other side. I'm also going to do a little bit on the top here. So what I'm going to do, leaving that center section where it's lightest, I'm going to go around the entire top of the cylinder. And if you miss any little spots, that's okay. You can go back in and just kind of touch those up here in a minute. Going back to your first color, so whatever your first color was, mine was a C1, you're going to go over those areas. So focusing on where the dark and the light areas meet, so you may need to go over them a little bit. Same brush strokes up and down along that long side, and skipping that center white area. I'm going to do that last. So I'm going to go ahead and go all the way to the side, and you can go back in a little bit if needed, and then go over your center absolutely last. So the areas you leave white, I always go over last, so it has the least amount of ink over it. And then the top, of course, we didn't leave any areas white. So I'm going to focus, of course, on the outside where the dark meets the light, just to make sure I really get that blended out, but I am going to go then in the center. Next, we're going to look at the cylinders again, but we're going to change the light source direction. I think this helps to make the cylinders look a little bit more interesting. So we're going to have the light source coming from the side. Take your C1 again, or whatever your lightest color that you choose, and I'm going to go just a little bit further off center, and that's my white spot right there. Notice that I left a bit of white towards the outer side. I'm not filling in my lightest color all the way to the edge. Go ahead and take your marker strokes, of course, going the long way along the long side of the cylinder. So in this case, it's straight up and down. And at this point, you can go ahead and fill in the top. Okay, next up, I'm going to take my darkest color. So now I'm skipping to a C5. You're still going to use a middle color, so you're going to need a big enough jump that you have another color to use in the middle there. But you're going to go to the farther side away from where we left that white spot. And basically, you're just going to mirror where that white spot is on the other side, taking that darkest color, just doing some straight lines up and down. Now going to my C3, which was our darkest color in the first one, I'm going to go ahead starting on that edge, and you may need to, I call this scrubbing, where you're kind of scrubbing that line a little bit. It just helps to really work those two colors together. So I'm going to start on that line and then work on the other line too, where it's much darker there. I'm going to scrub it, go up and down a bit, and you'll notice that that kind of gives you a little bit of discoloration because of the saturation of ink. So go ahead and then take that all the way to the edge, and that will really get that good blend quality that you want. Now I'll go ahead and go back over to where I'm covering over a little bit over that C1 with the C3 till it's about halfway, at the halfway point. Same thing as we did on the top before. I'm going to go all the way around the top, but I'm going to stop where I would meet that white line again. Now going back to your first color, I usually always go back to my first color. So that's C1. Again, I'm going to start right there on the edge, kind of scrubbing that line a little bit just to get that blend. Since it is the farthest way away from the light source, I didn't leave much of a white space there on the edge. So again, blending over that line, carrying it all the way over until I don't see that there is any more of a line between the two, and I'm going to at this point go ahead and go over my white spot, trying to keep the layers as light as possible over where we left it white. Same thing there along the edge, and then at the top I'll start on that dark spot first, kind of scrubbing that definition away, and then I'll go ahead and fill it all in.